Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Tony with RCHelp.com. Just got done with the shock rebuild video, and this is the last dirty piece on this truck that we need to rebuild. Unfortunately, this one needs a rebuild, an actual rebuild. I was trying to get ahead, and I wanted to see what the piston and sleeve was like in this engine. I took it out. I took some isopropyl alcohol, put it on a paper towel, ran it through the sleeve, ran it around the piston, that way it's nice and clean, put some oil on it, and put the piston in the sleeve. I was able to push it through the top. That's a worn out engine is what that is. Whenever I said that that was the last piece, well, I kind of lied. We do still have the muffler, but yeah, that's easy. You just clean it. So this engine actually needs a rebuild. It needs a piston and sleeve. Here's my issue. The piston and sleeve for the 2.5 and the 2.5R is 70 bucks. You can get these engines complete for 100 bucks. You know, 30 bucks more, you get an entire engine. And just so everybody knows, I do have a 2.5 right here. This is the 2.5R. So what we're going to do is we're going to Frankenstein this thing. I'm going to take the piston out of here and I'm going to put it in this sleeve. This piston has damage, but I think it'll still build compression. The reason I'm doing this piston is about a 1/2 thousandths bigger than this piston, which means it's going to seal in this sleeve just a little bit better. So without further ado, that is exactly what we're going to do. We've got to tear this thing apart. We have to clean it. I'm debating whether or not to take the bearings out of it or to just try to clean it in the engine. I don't know yet. Whichever way I do, you guys are going to find out, and we're going to start right now. So first things first, let's get that head off of here. Like I said, I have already been in this engine because I wanted to get a head start. I was trying to find a piston and sleeve for this thing for a reasonable price, and they're not out there. Not for this engine. I can't see paying 70 bucks for a piston and sleeve when I can get the entire engine for 100 bucks. Alright, now that we got that off, let's go ahead and push all of those bolts out of this head because we got to do some deep cleaning. There we go, all 5 bolts. Grab my X-Acto knife. We're going to take off that copper washer. I do already have the glow plug out of this one. Remember, the glow plug was missing the copper gasket. Yeah. Alright, I have here 7/32. That is the size of the nut that holds the carburetor on. Go ahead and back that off a few times. Kind of give that carburetor a twist. Good Lord, maybe. Let's give that little bolt a little tappy tap. Will you twist now? Yes. But it is really tight. Oh, so gummy. We're going to do a separate video on how to rebuild a carburetor, so just stay tuned for that one. Alright, we're going to leave the clutch bell on, but now we can get this engine mount off. Why am I taking the engine mount off? Because I want to clean the bottom side of this engine. Do you have to take this off if all you're doing is putting a piston and sleeve in? No, you don't, but look at the state of the engine. Yeah, I want to clean in there. Alright, go to the other side. Wow, that one was tight. And the last one. Alright, there's your engine mount. Go ahead and set that there. Yeah, getting dirty again, guys. I thought I was done getting dirty. Grab a different Allen driver. We're going to go ahead and take the easy start off, or the pull start. This isn't no easy start. you actually have to work to get this one started. Come on now, work with me. And again, to anybody watching this, these videos are longer than normal on this series because people were asking me to do more in-depth, show more of what I do. And honestly, some of this stuff, if you already know it, pretty boring. Alright, go ahead and take our easy start off. There's a one-way bearing. I do want to keep that with the pull start. It's not an easy start. Good Lord. Alright, keep that bolt with that. Wipe my hands off. Grab our bigger Allen driver. We're going to go ahead and pull this header off. Alright, set that bolt there. Set that bolt there. Pull the header off. Alright, now we're going to pull the back plate off. Again, I have already had this back plate off once. You have to take it off in order to get the piston and sleeve out. That's how I verified that this engine was in fact worn out. Alright, got them out. What you got to do to get this off, give it a little twist to break the seal, and there you go. There is some rust to be expected for sitting this long. I'll go ahead and clean my hand off again. Alright, so now we need to get this sleeve out of here. All I'm doing is pulling the piston down to where I can see the exhaust port back there. I'm going to use the plastic end of this, not the metal, but the plastic. We're going to put it down in there, and then that should force that sleeve right out of there. You can use a Q-tip, you can use a bamboo skewer, whatever. Alright, go ahead and pull that sleeve out. Now we're going to rotate it top dead center, reach in there, pull that rod off of the crank, and pull the piston out. Now comes the real fun part, getting the crankshaft out of here. Yeah. To get your E-clip off, just like on the shocks, just a simple twist, that comes off. Then we can check our clutch bell, and yeah. Nope, almost forgot about that little shim right there. Now, you know you want to come off. Stop getting hung up. There we go. Sometimes them things are a booger. Alright, so wipe my hands off here, and let's go ahead and zoom in and take a close look at this clutch bell. Alright, so anybody that wants to run a metal spur gear, this is what you can expect. Stop focusing on the table. Notice the knife edge. This thing spins counterclockwise. Notice the knife edge. Oh, yeah, that's horrible. This is also an 18 tooth, and it is the only clutch bell that takes this particular size of bearing, which has a 10 millimeter outer diameter. I'm going to be going with a different one that has an 11 millimeter bearing in there, and that is the 20 tooth clutch bell, but also the 22 and the 24 take the exact same bearing. And the 11 millimeter bearing is cheaper than the 10 millimeter bearing. Figure that one out. But metal spur gear, that right there is the damage it does. It knife edges the crap out of this thing. Will it just strip as fast as plastic? No. But I would rather replace a $3 spur gear than this $12 clutch bell. Alright, so we will not be using this again. Alright, to get your clutch off, simply pulls off. Now, remember which way that was on. This one is actually on backwards. Remember, this thing spins counterclockwise. You see which way they had it on. You can also see a little crack right there. Whenever this one slings out, it's just going to grab. You know, there is no slipping. If you want it to slip, put it on like this. If you have a trailing edge clutch, basically counterclockwise. Remember, if your pivot point is on the right, on the bottom shoe, if your pivot point's on the right and your shoe is on the left, that's going to be a trailing edge. That's going to be a softer engage. If you flip this thing around, you're going to have a much firmer engagement. It's basically going to sling out, and it's just going to lock onto that clutch bell. It can alter how the power comes in and how it puts it to the ground. So obviously we can't use this clutch. It's toast. Alright, so one of the hardest things to get off on these vehicles is that nut right there. That nut should be a 5/16, if I can find mine, and it is the exact same size as a glow plug, and we've got to try to get this thing off. Since the flywheel is already knurled, I'm going to try to use a pair of channel locks. This is usually the first tool I go to try to get these flywheels off. I need to go one bigger. You'll just grab a hold of it. You're not going to hurt this flywheel. Nothing uses this flywheel. We don't use a bump box on these trucks. The engine needs the flywheel because it needs the rotating mass to stay running, which I'm surprised they don't use steel. So we're going to just try to take this off. I have not done this. And that actually came off surprisingly easy. It was still tight. It was still tight. But it came off a lot easier than I thought it would. And now I'm going to try to get just a flat bladed screwdriver, get it between the block and the flywheel. Don't force this way. You want to pull this way. And we're just trying to break this flywheel off of that little collet right there. Again, that came off really easy compared to what some of them do. So now we just need to get in here, pull this collet up. That's all the collet is. It's just a tapered shim is all it is. And we should, okay, should, oh my, I can't hardly even spin that crank without the flywheel. It's got to come out. So, wow. So I think we're going to have to do some percussive maintenance to get this thing out. That sucker is locked in there now. Let's try something first. Let's spray a little bit of our favorite libation down in there and see if we can't get that thing to free up. I'm going to try to work it back and forth. See, I freed up pretty quick. That's nice. I'm going to put, oh, nope, not that rag. I'm going to put this rag underneath it to catch it. So that's a good sign that it freed up. That means it is just the oils that was in the fuel that was making it tight. So yeah, that's, oh, that is so much better. That makes me happy right there. I'm not feeling a lot of grit, but I'm also not getting that shaft out. Now this is a last resort. If you don't have to do this, don't do this. But I'm going to try one other thing before I go pounding on this crankshaft. We're going to throw a bolt in here. And I'm going to hammer on this bolt. Wow, that actually went in pretty far. Nice. I'm going to hammer on the bolt because nothing goes into them threads. I'd rather do that than to mushroom this crankshaft. So this is not a hammer. Okay? Okay. Now that we got that out of the way. I'll almost bet you it's this front bearing because I can see some real nasty stuff right here. Alright, time to lock her down. If this doesn't work, I may have to get a piece of wood and actually get a hammer. I don't want to do that. I want to be nice. It is going very slowly. Alright, let's see if I can just push on it now and see if it'll start to come. Nope. Just for the record, I don't like hitting these engines. I don't like to do it. I don't even do it this way whenever I am trying to get the bearings out. I heat the case up. Unfortunately, that's not going to work in this case. It may free it up, but 99% of the time, heat is not going to free this. Alright, let's get back to it. Alright, there we go. That got her. Let's give her a couple more whacks just to get her the rest of the way out, because pushing isn't working. Alright, taking bets. Is the back bearing going to come out with it? No. Holy crap, I would have almost guaranteed that bearing was going to come with it. Alright, let's feel that back bearing. Definitely needs to be cleaned. Let's feel this front bearing. Just needs to be clean. Cool. So I don't have to put bearings in this engine. That is a bonus. Alright. Same thing as we've been doing. We want to clean. Clean. I may have to go out to the shop and get some emery for this one. Because what I want to do, I want to clean this off and see if I can put it back in the engine. Again, I do not condone hitting these engines with a hammer. You should never have to hit these things with a hammer or a pair of pliers, which are not hammers. Alright. So I got a lot of that cleaned off. Let's see if it'll slide back in. If not, I'm probably going to have to take these bearings out. Nope, it is not going to go back in. Okay. And it's not going to come back out. Ta-da! Well, I was really hoping that I wasn't going to have to pull them bearings all the way out of this engine. But why should it start being easy now? Alright. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this O-ring off. That's for your exhaust. There's an O-ring down inside here. This is your lower seal on the carburetor. As you can see right there, there is an upper seal. Well, you can kind of see that. Sometimes getting these seals out, a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and push out the bolt that holds the carburetor in. We're going to use a bigger screwdriver for that. Alright, that actually came out surprisingly easy. And now we're left with the block. This block I am going to clean at the kitchen sink with a toothbrush, soap, and hot water. I am also going to pull out the starter shaft, and I'm going to clean this with soap and hot water. I'm going to go ahead and leave that seal on though. I'm going to clean the head, soap and hot water. And I'm going to clean the muffler, again, soap and hot water. See the pattern? As well as the engine mount and the flywheel and the exhaust, otherwise known as a header. So I'm going to go clean those here real quick, and I will be right back. Alright guys, so as you can see, I mean there's still a little bit of dirt on this thing, but it ain't nowhere near as bad as it was. So block's clean. The crank actually cleaned up a lot better than I thought it would. This come out of the muffler, and I may or may not put that back in. We may do a little experiment and see how it sounds and how it runs with and without this. Basically, it just goes right in there. So let's see if I can get that pushed in. There we go. It just goes in there like that. It's just a little reducer. I don't know if it's part of the back pressure or if it's just part of the muffler of muffling the sound and all that. I'm not real sure. So, got the header clean, and we got these pieces clean. Looks much better. So now, we need to take this other engine and we need to pull the piston out of it. So, I'm just going to go ahead, you've already seen me take that one apart. I'm just going to go ahead, tear this one down, and grab that piston. Alright, so here we go. Got the piston out of it. You can easily tell which piston goes into which engine because Yeah, this one got hot. I mean hot. So here's the issue. Let me just kind of wipe this off. My finger in there, just kind of make sure that's halfway clean. If you can take your piston and actually poke it through the top, the engine's wore out. You know, that's just all there is to it. But if you have multiple engines, you can grab another piston or grab another sleeve and just try them. Because I can't push that one all the way through. Now, you may have just seen it. This piston is damaged right there. Somebody put something hard. You know how I put that little plastic piece in to get the sleeve out? Somebody stuck a screwdriver or something in there to get that sleeve out. You don't do that. You know, go get a Q-tip, get a barbecue skewer, get something. Not something hard that's going to damage your engine. So, we got a piston, we got a sleeve. I am going to properly-ish clean this sleeve. All I did, I got my WD-40 soap rag that we have used throughout this entire rebuild. I'm going to go ahead and clean that piston off. And now, we're going to put this thing back together. And since that dirty rag is cleaner than this clean rag, yeah. Alright, we got our crankshaft. Go ahead and give it a final wipe down just to make sure it'll go in there nice and purty. Another check you can make, put that rod on there and see how much play you have. If you have an excessive amount, you might want to think about getting a new rod. Now, let's go ahead and pop that crankshaft in. It should go in with minimal force and it should spin. It was not doing that before. I can assure you that. Alright, with the crank in there, we'll go to top dead center. It's a little harder to hold it there now. With the beveled edge facing the crank, we'll put that in there and try to get it up on that crankshaft. Push it down on there, and there you go. Now, because I got WD-40, we're just going to put just a skosh of WD-40 in there. Let it kind of go around. That's going to give it its lubrication. It doesn't need any more than that. Work it onto that piston. Work it down there into the block. Kind of give it a couple little wiggles. Find your notch. Find your pin. Go ahead and line those two up. And press that sleeve into place. I did not get it on the first try. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my little piece of plastic here. We're going to pop that sleeve back out of here. Because you don't want to go wrenching on this thing with a pair of pliers. There's no need. You just want to line it up to where that pin goes into that slot. So now, oh yeah, that feels much better. Yep. It's not as tight as a new piston sleeve, but it's tighter than it was. That's what matters. So with that, we'll grab our little starter adapter shaft thing. I don't know what it's called. Just give it a quick wipe. And then because I wiped this off on my WD-40 soap rag, it's got WD-40 on it. I've already cleaned the bushing out, so that's got WD-40. Put that in there. Make sure it spins. Halfway free it is on a bushing. Drop it. Pick it back up. And we'll go ahead and put it in the engine. Kind of wiggle it in until it stops, and it will stop unless you're lucky. Now turn this, hold the crank, turn this until it falls in. Then you can go ahead and push it on in. Now you should have very little play in your crankshaft. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab our bolts to hold that back plate on. Give them a quick clean. And then put all four of them in. Once you have all four of them in, don't go real tight, but you want to go tight enough where them bolts won't back out. Crisscross pattern. And there we go. We got our back plate on. Double check, make sure everything's still spinning nice and free. Make sure you still have a little bit of friction up there at the top. Perfect. Now we're going to take our seal, put it back on our exhaust, take our header, slide it on there, grab our 2 bolts, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clean these guys. WD-40 soaked rag. Make them look pretty again. Well, prettier. And then just bolt it on. Grab our second bolt that we just cleaned. Go ahead and put it on in there. Alright, now that we got that exhaust bolted on, we'll go ahead and grab the head. Well, it's so much prettier now. Probably going to cool better too. We'll go ahead and drop the bolts down in here. Alright, got all 5 of them poking out the bottom. What you want to do here, I want to turn this upside down, which I should have showed you this before. But you're going to have very distinct markings on here. These 2 small holes and these 2 small holes are going to line up with these holes right here, or the slots. The next thing you need to look at is the bolt pattern. You got 1 in the center and then 2 offset. 1 in the center, 2 offset. You want to make sure you put this head on right if you're wanting to get to the bolts down there so you can tighten them up. We can set that to the side and grab our engine mount, and we can go ahead and put it on right now. Because if I don't, somebody's probably going to argue and say that there is an easier way. So let me clean these bolts off, and we'll bolt the engine down. Alright, got all my bolts cleaned off. We'll just go ahead, stick them down here into the block. Take our engine mount, put it up underneath there, grab our Allen driver, and go ahead and send it on home. Now if you had the head on, you can kind of see even with those slots, yeah, that's probably not going to work. So definitely bolt the engine mount before you put the head on, especially on the 2.5Rs. I think I'm going to give him my Allen driver back. Come over here to the other side. These you don't really have to worry about a crisscross pattern. Just go ahead and tighten them down. Alright, grab our little copper washer, WD-40 soaked rag, go ahead and clean it off. You probably should replace this, but again, we're on a budget on this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit this gasket with just a skosh of WD-40. And the only thing that's going to do is hold it on that head. That way it doesn't fall off. So remember your bolt pattern that we just talked about. Go ahead and set that head on there. We'll go ahead and tighten it up. This one, it is crucial that you go in a star pattern. So just started touching. Come over here. And back over here. Then we'll go over here. And over here. Alright. Then we'll come back here. Give it a torque. 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 And torque. You don't have to go super tight on these things, I promise. Alright, make sure your engine still spins over. It does. You can see the piston up in there. Perfect. Alright, so now that we got that head bolted on, boy, that engine's a lot prettier than it was. We got that little collet. Give it a quick clean here right quick. Slide it on the crankshaft. Make sure to pull it out and slide it on just a hair bit more. Take your flywheel, make sure it's clean, slide it on. Then on the nut, I'm just going to run my brush in here, just make sure there's nothing in them threads. Wipe it off. Go ahead and screw it down. Open my pliers up a little bit. Grab a hold of the flywheel. Grab a 5/16 and tighten her down. That one there, you want to go pretty tight. And because I have to go pick up a clutch for this thing that I was not expecting, and that's like a, I don't know, 45-minute drive from here, so an hour and a half total, unless I get to BSing with the owner. We're going to go ahead and do the clutch install, the clutch bell install, and all that in the assembly video when we put the whole truck together. And no, I will not forget to put in a glow plug with a gasket. So with the exception of the seal that goes down in here, which that one has expanded, I'm going to see if I can get it to contract back down. Just keep it dry and hopefully it'll contract, because it ain't going back in there. So there will be a dedicated video on this carburetor because we're going to go completely through it. So be sure to stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button down there and click that notification bell. That way you know whenever that comes out. That's been highly requested, as this one has too. That is how easy it is to clean an extremely dirty engine, and how to repurpose another engine that's also worn out to get your compression ratio back up. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, post them in the comments section below. If you'd like to help us out, all them links are down in the description. And as always, I want to thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.